One of the conversations du jour at the moment is in and around social media, and particularly the effects that it's having on our kids. The Herald Sun, the Daily Telegraph, the Adelaide Advertiser and the Courier Mail today are getting behind a great campaign which is saying, let them be kids. It is a campaign that is all about making sure that we keep kids away from social media until they're really quite advanced teenagers. And even then, we all know you should stay away from this as far as you want. Now, of course, this should have been dealt with by National Cabinet when they were meeting a few weeks ago, but they couldn't even agree on bail laws about domestic violence. This, of course, should be a priority for a federal government to get all state governments together, but no, state governments have to go it alone. Peter Malinauskas says that it's 14-year-olds. It's the first time you should be able to have a social media account, but in New South Wales they're going to go one better. And Chris Minns plays all other Labor leaders off a break as a bloke who understands it and gets on with it. Now, he could do a lot more when it comes to bail laws, sure, but on social media, this bloke is exactly where it should be. He's going to have a summit in the next little while so he can get all of the input, but he's wanting to get towards a full ban on social media access for anyone under the age of 16. First, the media summit.
We've decided to hold social media summit so we can get the experts around the table. We can look at legislative change, reforms in this space to keep kids safe, to arm parents with the information they need to make the best decisions for their children.
And again, if he's floating right now that the plan is that kids only over the age of 16 will have access to social media, that is what will end up being the outcome.
I think it is the right age, or at least the limit. Now, there'd be a lot of 16-year-olds where even that isn't old enough, to be honest with you, when you consider what you're exposed to as a result of being on social media. I've got to make a decision about whether that's enforceable at the state level. It'd be better if we could do it at a national level.
Now, I want you to think about social media the same way that you think about a casino. No natural light, no clocks, and essentially it's a system to release dopamine, the thing that sets off in our head little feelings of goodness. Now, social media works just like a casino. Once you're in, the business is about keeping you there. Now, there are great documentaries and lots of them all over, and any of them you can find, I want them to show them to yourself and then have a look to teenage kids or grandkids. It's about how, frankly, evil these companies can be sometimes. And I think the reality is that adults have got a problem with social media. I certainly know that I've spent too many nights looking at reels. So you know what I've done? I delete the app. Every couple of weeks I'll remember, oh yeah, that's right, Instagram, and I'll go and have a look. But I'm not on there all day, every day, constantly just searching for distraction. And the truth is, when it comes to our kids, when they're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, they don't have a job. So the only way they get access to a smartphone is if we buy them one. Now, there's technology that exists that means you can buy a dumb phone. If you're one of those people who believes that after your kid starts catching the train or the bus that you should be able to call them and they should be able to call you, there are phones where you can go into anything from Harvey Norman through to the telcos and they will sell you a phone that's got the numbers on it and that's it. There's even ones with no cameras on it. That's what we need to be giving our kids. When we turn around and give them the casino in their hand, are we ever surprised that they get lost in it? Oh, but my friend's got one. Yeah, okay, I get it. But I certainly know we're having the conversation with our kids as they're starting to feel the pressure, and I can't believe it. When I've got a kid in year 3 who's starting to have the chat about the phone, it's not happening. Because this is a destructive force. Now, if you're at home and you want to watch things on YouTube with them, and if you want to look at other things, maybe on the adult phone, okay, that's your business. But giving the kid the device that you then 2, 3, 4, 5 years later say they're addicted to, well, just like any other form of addiction, from gambling to drugs to booze, it's not just about your exposure to it. It's not just about your experimentation with it. It's because somebody gave you the opportunity to try it. Now, to give you another idea about just how addictive and just how weird people get when they're teenagers and their phones, again, one of the stories in the Daily Telegraph, the Herald Sun, the Courier Mail and the Adelaide Advertiser, as well as the Hobart Mercury, talks here about the problems when you take a phone off a kid. They start screaming, they start shouting, and some of them even get violent. I'm going to read a bit here, so hopefully you're comfy, that some teens are so addicted to social media and online gaming platforms that they're pulling out knives on their parents when the Wi-Fi gets turned off. A psychologist who helps treat technical addiction, can you believe it? Technical addiction, said some extreme cases of children were smashing doors, shouting and showing dysregulation behaviour, which means they go nuts. And the troubling behaviour is starting even younger. This year, Triple P parenting surveys finding that parents admit that 1 in 3 toddlers aged 2 and under are hooked on screen-based play. Now, have I been guilty of putting a screen in front of my kids? You bet. But this stuff really is a kick in the backside to all of us who have the capacity to keep a device out of a kid's hand that they can't buy. You watch the behaviour of people when they're out. The first thing they do when a young child is restless in a restaurant or a cafe, they hand them a phone. That addiction then continues as they get older, often impacting on their schooling and their mood control, with parents forced to seek professional help. How many times do we sit here and say the kids aren't all right? And there's a lot of different things that make our kids not all right. There's garbage being poured into their ears at school, and the pressure about the world's going to end and everything's racist and the country you shouldn't be proud of. But one thing you and I can control as parents, you and I can control as grandparents or guardians, is don't give them a smartphone until they are ready to use it, and they're not ready at primary school. And good on the New South Wales government for moving towards a place where not until you're deep into high school will you be able to access social media, which, I repeat, is like a casino. You wouldn't let your kid drink, you wouldn't let your kid smoke, you wouldn't let your kid gamble. Why would you let your kid muck around on social media?